A very good morning to everyone. I hope you all are doing well. Yes, I'm Pooja, your science teacher from Learning. I welcome you all for Learning. I hope you all have revised our previous sessions. We were talking about basically the microorganisms, the second chapter in our 8th standard science subject, that is the microorganisms, friends and foe. Yes, we were spoke about the different things under this particular chapter, and in today's session also we will be talking about the same chapter and the rest of the things which are there in the chapter. So before we move into the chapter, I hope you all have subscribed to our channels. So if not, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel and also like and share our videos. And there are many other videos also in the same series regarding the first chapter and many other subjects which we are doing. So I request you all, please do go have a check about all the videos, and also please do like, share and subscribe. Yes, so let us have a check into what are we gonna talk today and what are we gonna discuss and learn. Yes, in today's session we will be talking about the two important things, that is the food preservation and also about the important nitrogen cycle. Yes, we will be talking about these two topics today, and we should also have a check what we have revised, what we have done in our previous session, right? Yes, it is also important to revise. Yes, we will be starting our revision so that meanwhile everybody can join us. Yes, we were talking about our second chapter, that is the microorganisms, friend and foe. So in this, we already spoke about what are the different types of microorganisms, what are microorganisms, where do they all live and everything. And in our previous session, we spoke about what are the different uses of microorganisms, wherein all the microorganisms are used. And also we spoke about what are the harmful microorganisms, what are the different human, plant and animal diseases these particular microorganisms are actually causing. So we spoke about all these particular things, right? Yes, I hope you all have had a revision into all of those topics and also understood all of them. If any doubts or clarifications which you all have, you can definitely reach out to us in our website, that is www.vistas-learning.in. Yes, so I hope you all have revised into previous session. Yes, let us go into today's session. What are we going to talk about today? So as I said, we are going to talk about the food poisoning and food preservation methods. There are many methods through which we actually preserve the food, and also about the nitrogen cycle. Yes, we will be talking about these three topics in today's session. So let us go into the topic then. Yes. So basically, what is food poisoning? You all can see there are a wide variety of food, right? There are multiple things, as you all can see. Yes. So when the food is very essential, when it is very nutritious, it is very important for us to have food. So how does this word, that is food poisoning, came into picture? Have you ever thought of it, how food could be poisonous? Because it is very important part of our lives that we all are going to eat every day. It is not that one day you are going to eat and the other 2 days you will not be eating, right? Every day on a regular basis, we need our food, we need our nutrition's energy, right? Yes. So at the same time, when it comes to eating or having food, it is very important that you make sure you will be eating a good quality food which is healthy, and it should be balancing your diet also. Yes, all this actually is very important. So how does actually the food poisoning happens? So basically, whenever there is a food poisoning issue, actually it could be as serious as where it causes death also, and it could be as minor as where you will be having stomach ache and vomiting and these things also. Yes. So how does this basically happens? How does food poisoning happen? What happens is that these are friends or the bad enemies, microorganisms which we have. They basically grow in our food and they produce the toxic substances. Yes, that is when the food gets poisoned. That is where the picture of food poisoning comes. Yes, You are right. So basically, whenever the microorganisms grow in our food and also they produce the toxic substances, the food will not be good for eating. It is not an edible one. That is when if you consume such food which is contaminated or having toxic substances, we will get the health issues, the health upset issues. Yes, that is what actually called as food poisoning. Yes, and it is very important that we make sure we will be using a good food that is which is covered always and well cooked and prepared with and well hygiene. And also it is important that the water which we are using for preparing our food and also for drinking has to be good. Whenever you are using water, you have to boil the water and then use it. So these are the methods through which we actually can prevent the food poisoning. Yes, I hope you all have understood about the food poisoning. So please be careful from now on what and all the food you are going to eat. So whether it is good or bad or how is it, please do make sure you are eating a healthy food. Yes, now that we all have spoke about the food poisoning part, let us also try to understand so what are the preservations method, because we are talking about we have to make sure we are going to eat the good food and also the food has to be covered well, prepared well, stored well and everything, right? Yes, how can we all do this? How do we preserve the food? Yes, we will also talk about these things actually. Yes, you all can see food preservation is very important. In this particular picture, as you all can see, they have stored it in different containers. They have covered with a lid and there is a cloth and everything, right? Yes, so there are multiple ways through which you actually can preserve your food. So basically what happens, let us take a quick example why preservation is important or how preservation is important or how do we do it. So when you consider you have bought mangoes in your home that you wanted to eat. You all like mangoes, right? Who doesn't like mangoes? Yes. So what happens, you have bought it but you have forgotten that. It has been 3-4 days, a week that you did not eat, and when you go back and check, the mangoes are not good enough to eat. They are rotten. They are not good enough for now you can eat that. Yes, so then you also think about the pickles, the mango pickles or the different pickles our mother or grandmother will be preparing in home will not get rotten or get spoiled so easily within 3 to 4 days of time or within a week of time. How does that happen? What do our mother or the grandmother do so that they can preserve these particular food items for a longer duration? Why don't they get spoiled? Can anybody let me know what happens basically? So as I can see, who has been joined, so good morning. Can anybody let me know? Yes, you all might be guessing that or also seen in home that whenever there is something that your mother or the grandmother is preparing for a pickle or drying anything, they particularly first dry the items and also they make sure they'll be adding salt and also oil or sometimes vinegar also. So these particular things actually make sure the food will be not getting spoiled and it will be stored for a longer duration. Yes, there are multiple methods through which we actually can preserve the food. Basically what happens is that whenever there is a microorganisms that is growing in our food, that is grown in our food, it makes our food spoiled, right? And also the smell changes, the color changes, the food will not be good enough for us to eat. You all might have noticed it one or the other time. It actually smells very bad when the food actually is spoiled, and also the texture of the food itself would be entirely different because there are a lot of microorganisms that have been grown in the food. So it makes it non-eatable. So it makes them not good for eating purpose or storing purpose. Yes, now that we were talking about the preservation methods, what are the different preservations method? Can anybody let me know or give an example what could be the different preservation methods? Okay, I will let you know. The first method would be the preservation by common salt. It is one of the common and most used type of preservation method. we actually have a look into all these particular types in detail. So let us try to understand what is the next step. So the next one is by sugar. By adding sugar also you can preserve the food. We will have a check how that works also. And the preservation by oil and vinegar. Yes, we do a lot of oil and vinegar into many of our food items, right, when we are preparing. So how does that happen? How does that work? We will have a check into all of that also. And the preservation by heat and cold treatments. Yes, this you all might have been seen, that because this happens on a day-to-day basis, on a regular basis, even in our homes, on many other places. Yes, we will have a check into of all of these in detail one by one. Yes, this salt. So as you all can see, and we were discussing about the salt, right? So how does that basically preserve our food? You all might have seen in coastal areas and everything, many of the places where they're having fishes actually as an ingredient, they have to store them, right? Because they have to make sure that they will be storing it, and also they have to make sure that they are going to package. They'll do the packaging, and also it will go to different places, right? So when it reaches different places, they have to make sure it has to be fresh and also good enough. That is when actually that is why actually they have to make sure that the food will not, or the fish or the meat, anything will not get spoiled. Yes, that is actually very important. That is how actually they use actually the common salt which we are having. So there are many other chemicals and salt that we will be using to preserve the food, and one such would be sodium benzoate. So that chemical is also used actually to preserve the food. So when it comes to salt actually, so what they do is that they cover the entire food item or the fish, meat, whatever they want to preserve, they cover it with the dry salt. They cover it so well and then package it, and then that will be going for further places or storing. Yes, they use the salt because in this the bacterium or the many other microorganisms will not grow in this condition. That is why the food or the meat, those things will not get spoiled, so that we can make sure we are preserving it and storing it and also using it for future purpose. Yes, this is the preservation by common salt. Yes, so what is the next step then? We were talking about the preservation by salt and sugar, right? Yes, they use sugar also for the preservation of food. So salt actually they will be using, as we were talking about, the common salt they will be using for many of the other food items also. Like when they want to do pickles also, they make sure they put first the salt and they get the ingredient ready for making the preparation. Yes, they also use it for preserving the mangoes, the amla, and many other vegetables also, and also meat and fish. And we were talking about the next point, that is, as you all can see, that is the sugar. Yes, everybody likes sweets, right? Who doesn't like sweets? Yes, so sugar is also one of such ingredient where we can use it for actually preservation of food. So how does actually the preservation of food happens by sugar? We all might have seen the jams and jellies and also the squashes of juice, fruits, and many other vegetables. They actually what they do is that they will add the sugar to those particular food items. So this sugar actually makes sure it will reduce the water content, so that if the water content has been reduced, the microorganisms cannot grow in such places. That is why the food will not get spoiled, because the microorganisms are not growing. Yes, that is what basically happens. So whenever you are adding sugar, it will reduce the water content and it will make sure the microorganisms will not be growing, so our food will not get spoiled. Yes, this is the method through which we can use sugar to preserve our food. All these is salt and sugar. are basically available in our homes only, right? Yes, in our home only it will be available, and also these are like not some chemicals which you have to go and get it in the big stores or chemical shops. No, these are easily available. So they are easily available near your home and places where you are in. So you can use these types of methods so that you can store all the foods easily and preserve them also. Yes, now that we have spoke about the salt method and the sugar, let us try to have a check what would be the another method. Yes, you all can see the oil there, right? Yes, we also use oil in order to preserve many of the food items, and also it not only by oil, we also use vinegar that is basically acidic in nature. So what happens when you are using a lot of oil and vinegar? Let us take an example of a pickle. In order to make sure the pickle will be good enough for a longer period of time, we make sure we add a lot of oil and vinegar to it. You all might have seen, right? Whenever there is a pickle bottle in your home or your place, there is always oil in the top of it. Yes, that is because we have to make sure the food doesn't get spoiled. Whenever there is high content of oil and vinegar, the microorganisms or the bacteria cannot grow in such environment where it is acidic and then highly oilable. It is having so much of oil and also vinegar content. There the microorganisms or the bacteria cannot grow. That is why the oil and vinegar has been used, one of the method to preserve our food. Okay, now that we have understood about our next topic, let us also try to understand what is the next preservation method. Yes, preservation by cold treatment. So basically what happens here, we all have refrigerators in home, right? We like eating some cold things sometimes, ice creams and all that. So why we keep the food in the refrigerator? Because in the cold environment, the microorganisms will not grow. Because that is how the food can be fresh enough and we can preserve them. That is why we basically use the refrigerators, where we can use the cold treatment in order to make sure we'll preserve our food. Yes, you all can see the picture of a small refrigerator there, where there are multiple things made. Could be vegetable, fruit, egg and oil, cake and many things, right? Yes, you can preserve any of the food items and by the cold treatment, where you will be using commonly the refrigerators in order to make sure the temperature is very low, where the microorganisms do not grow, so that we can preserve our food. Yes, now that we have understood the one more type, let us try to understand one more type. I hope you all are understanding and also learning about the different preservation methods. If any such doubts or clarification, you can definitely ask me in the comment section. Yes, so what is basically happening here? They are actually boiling, right? They're boiling something and they're making sure that the food, whatever they are gonna preserve, will not get spoiled. These are the processes, that is the heating and cooling, are normally used and most commonly used technique, because whatever the preparation, the food, the breakfast, lunch, or the dinner, whatever we do, we make sure the food has been boiled well and also it is heated well. So what happens here, the food has been preserved by boiling the items. They heat the items, the food items, so that whenever the food items has been heated, the microorganisms will not grow in that. Whatever it is already there, that will kill the microorganisms, that particular heat. That is how this heat treatment or heating treatment or also boiling would help us to preserve all the food contents. Yes, here as you all can see, they are boiling water. In that they are going to keep some food item, and so that the whatever the microorganisms are there in that, like kind of a sterilization that they are doing. So by heating we can kill all the microorganisms, and also through the boiling purpose, whatever the germs or the microorganisms are there in that, we could kill them, so that the food we can preserve it well. There won't be any effect to our food which we are using. Yes, this is the another important method of food preservation. You also might have seen that whenever the mom gets the milk from the shop, she will be boiling it first, then only you will be able to drink that milk or anything, right? So why does we have to boil the milk? Why don't we use the white milk or anything directly? And also sometimes we all might have seen that whatever the milk we get in packets from the dairies, we can actually consume it even without heating also. They say it has been pasteurized. So what does pasteurization mean then? So what do they do it? Because we all know that the milk product which we get from the shops is actually not spoiled one, right? So it will be good enough. So how do they preserve it? How do they make sure they preserve without spoiling it, and also travel for such a huge places, and it will go to different places and still it won't be spoiled and it will be good enough? What happens there? We will have a check into that point also. Yes, you all can see that it is basically the picture of pasteurization. So what basically happens in pasteurization is that, so you can see a heating section, you can see a cooling section. Whatever the milk which we are getting from the animals, the cow, will be first actually heated at a higher temperature for a few seconds, and then it will be suddenly chilled and cooled down. And then it will be packed and sent to different places for our use. So how does this particular process is actually called as pasteurization? Yes. So what happens in pasteurization? As I said, the milk is being heated about 70 degrees Celsius for 15 to 30 seconds, and then it is stored for the further usage. And it prevents the growth of microbes, that is the microorganisms. Why pasteurization is important? Because it kills the microorganisms which are there in that product. Yes, and also as you all can see, who found out the pasteurization process is Louis Pasteur is a scientist who found out this particular pasteurization method. Yes, through which we can actually store our food. The pasteurized milk, we can send it to different places for a longer time. It will not get spoiled. Yes, so pasteurization is very important because this helps us to kill all the microorganisms, and we can store the food in for a longer duration of time for our future references. Yes, now that we all have understood what are the different types and techniques of preserving the food, may it be through the common salt, may it be through the sugar, it could be by using oil and vinegar, it could be by having a cool environment using the cold treatment, and it could be through heating the substances also. So these are the different methods through which we can actually preserve our food products. I hope you all have understood what are the different preservation methods. Okay, then let us go into the next topic. So basically, what are you all seeing there in those pictures? There are fruits, vegetables, coconut and everything. What have they done it? What has been done there actually? There actually, the food products which we are having, that is actually stored in different places, right? Yes, it has been stored and also packed well. So whenever we talk about food items and things, it is also very important that we make sure the food is packed well and also stored well. In our previous chapter, you all have understood and also learnt about how storage is important, how do we store the food grains and the crops we grow. After that the grains have been stored, we are using it for further purpose, we have prepared our food, we have to make sure the vegetables, fruits and any food items, we have to store them well, pack them well, so that we can use it for a further reference, and also it should be healthy enough, right? The food has to be healthy enough. You all remember in my previous session, I have told you all, please do not eat any of the food items which are not covered, which are open in space. Yes, it is not good actually for our health. That is why we have to make sure we'll use the storing purpose, and also the packaging is very important, and also the storage is very important. Yes, what happens basically in storage and packing is that we will do the storage and packing, like we will pack those particular food items in an airtight containers or a boxes which we will be having, that those are airtight, and many of the dry fruits and many of the vegetables and fruits actually nowadays stored in an airtight box or a container, so that we can preserve it, and also we make sure that will be stored well. Because if there are multiple things, you just go and put it in some place, so there is not a good thing to do. As what I mean is that it won't be clean enough, and also the space it consumes is also more, and also it looks very messy. Yes, but whenever you have packed it well, so you can store them in different places in a good manner, so that it looks good also, and also we make sure that whatever we want, we can take them at whatever time we want. It will be easily available, and the space also we can make sure we'll manage the space also. So this could be one of the normal example actually, why storage and packing is important. Yes, basically we have, in order to make sure it is not spoiled and we have to make sure we'll use good food, packaging and storing is very important. Yes. So as you all can see, these days dry fruits and many other vegetables and fruits are sealed in an airtight box and containers. They will be using these types of storage purposes or the packing purposes in order to store the food. Yes, now that I hope you all have understood why storing is important, packaging is important, and how we could do it. And there are multiple ways through which we can pack the different food items, and one such example is where we are using the airtight containers or the airtight boxes or the containers in order to preserve or pack the food. Okay, now that we all have understood what are the different preservation food methods and everything, we also have one more important topic under this chapter, that is the nitrogen cycle. So basically, what is nitrogen cycle and how does that work? So what happens here is that we all know in our atmosphere, 78% of the atmosphere actually consists of nitrogen gas, right? It is the major gas or the content which we have in our air and atmosphere, right? It is very important that we make sure the nitrogen content which is there will be balanced in the atmosphere. There should not be any unbalance in the nitrogen content which is there. Yes, it is very important that we make sure the nitrogen content has to be conserved. Yes, that means it should not go high and low, it should be constant. That is what we have to make sure. And how does that happen? Are we going to go and fix the nitrogen from the atmosphere, like, okay, you nitrogen N2, we all know nitrogen would be denoted as N2, right? Okay, you are nitrogen N2, come here, I am going to fix here, this is balanced. You be here, so this is balanced. Are we going to do like that? No, right? Yes, there are different ways through which actually the nitrogen will be fixed in the atmosphere actually. Nitrogen fixation is actually done through many of the bacteria and also many of the bacterians and microorganisms. That is, you all might have heard about the rhizobium, right? It is one such bacteria which is present in the roots of a leguminous plants, where it actually helps to fix the nitrogen. Actually, these particular rhizobium bacteria will be in a symbiotic association with the plant. What is symbiotic association then? So what is symbiotic association is that it will be useful for me also, you also. Like we all have two friends, means they are in symbiotic relationship, means it is useful for both the persons. That is what actually called a symbiotic relationship. That is, whenever this particular plant is there, it have a root, in that this particular rhizobium bacteria is telling, I am going to come and sit here. So what does the plant says? Okay, let us do an agreement where you will also be used, you will also get the nutrients, and I should also be used from you. That is, we have to make sure there is uses and also helping actually to each other. That happens so that you can live here. You help me, I help you, we can be friends together, we can be living together, you can be in my roots actually. That is what actually like a symbiotic relationship that this particular rhizobium bacteria will be having with the plants. They are not going to talk literally as I'm telling, but as I was explaining, this is how actually happens between them. So they make sure both of them are utilizing each other so that they can grow together and survive together. Yes. So you all can see now understood that the rhizobium bacteria, which are there in the roots of a leguminous plants, will be helping to fix the nitrogen. And also we have a big nitrogen cycle, as you all can see. It looks a very complex and a very difficult one, but nothing to worry. It is very simple. You can definitely remember your nitrogen cycle in just 4 to 5 sentences. So I will let you know how you can definitely do that. So what happens, other than the rhizobium bacteria, there are many other processes through which the nitrogen actually fixed in the atmosphere. So that is through thunder and lightning. Whenever there is lightning, we all get scared, right? It is actually kind of scary, and also it looks beautiful sometimes. Yes, whenever there is such lightning happening, the atmospheric nitrogen will be fixed through the lightning also. Did you know this? It will be raining, there will be thunderstorms and lightning, that's it. But have you ever thought that lightning would be helping us to fix the atmospheric nitrogen? Yes, that is what happening here. Lightning also helps us to fix the atmospheric nitrogen. And also at the same time, there are many other bacteria, that is the blue-green algae or the cyanobacteria, what we call about. So they also actually helps us to fix the atmospheric nitrogen into the soil. And as you all can see, these particular bacteria and microorganisms which are there, they will convert this atmospheric nitrogen into the compounds of nitrogen, so that our soil will get that particular compounds of nitrogen, and that will be further used by many other things. So in this particular nitrogen cycle, let us try to understand the first half of it, that is where through lightning and through many other bacteria, the atmospheric nitrogen is converted into nitrogenous compound and it will come to our soil. Now in our soil we have our plants, many other microorganisms which we will be helping us to fix the nitrogen back into the atmosphere again. So what happens whenever there is nitrogenous compounds which is there in the soil, our plants will pick up those nutrients and they will grow. And whenever there is an animal or we humans feeding on those particular plants and those particular plants, we will be getting those nitrogenous compounds and the nitrogen contents and the nutrients in us and all the many animals and we who eat upon these particular plants. Yes, in the similar way, this particular after we get this particular nitrogen component in different animals and humans, we after eating the plants, once these particular animals die, they actually, what our microorganisms or the microbes helps us, they make sure they will break down this particular nitrogenous waste and fix the nitrogen back again into the atmosphere. So that is how again the nitrogen comes into the soil, and these particular microorganisms which are there, they will help us again to fix it back into the atmosphere. This is how the cycle actually goes. Yes. So what happens? Certain bacteria and the blue-green algae which are present in the soil help us to fix the nitrogen compounds into the soil, and whatever the plants, the nitrogen compounds that our plants will be picking them, they will grow, and the animals which we feed on the plants and the humans will get that nitrogenous component. Whenever the animal or the things die, they will get the nitrogenous components, the nutrients again back into the soil. Again our nutrients which are the nitrogenous compounds again will go back into the atmosphere in the form of nitrogen, so that there is a balance in the nitrogen content in the atmosphere. It will be constant. Yes, that is what basically happens, and again the cycle continues. So this is about the nitrogen cycle. Yes, we have come to the end of today's session. I hope you all have learned and understood what is food poisoning and what are the different methods of preserving the food, and also a very important nitrogen cycle. So please do go back and revise into all of these topics, and make sure you will learn all of this. And if there any such doubt, you could definitely reach out to us at our website. And please do make sure you will subscribe to our channel and also like and share our videos. And there are many other videos also in the same series. You can definitely go and have a check into all of those particular